Oh, all right, dear listener. Jaime III in A Storm of Swords. Great chapter. Have I mentioned that since the name isn't really spelled Jaime, but rather like the Spanish name Jaime, we might as well pronounce it that way? Yeah? Have I? Huh? Yeah? Oh, I have, you say. What, only every single time? Okay, yeah, well, senility, what are you going to do? Right, so let's get into it. This is a great chapter. Last time, we followed our three unlikely companions, the titular Jaime, Brienne, and Cleos. And they just left the Inn of the Kneeling Man, having narrowly avoided the band of outlaws waiting for them in the woods to rob them blind. Band of outlaws that turned out to be none other than a chapter of the Brotherhood Without Banners, currently taking Arya and Gendry to Beric Dondarrion, but that's a different plot strand. And right now, these three unlikely companions are passing through swaths of destruction, miles of blackened fields and orchards, where the trunks of dead trees jut into the air like archers' stakes. Yeah, burnt bridges too. Who caused all that destruction? Of course, like mainstream media, we might say, yeah, well, it was the conflict, which is basically how mainstream media, frame these things whenever they don't want to say that it was the side of the conflict that they happen to be doing PR for. Don't you just love it when mainstream media say victims of the conflict? This goes for mainstream media of any country, okay? Just giving you my 2 cents, 2 pennies as a nerdy sociolinguist. Anyway, so they arrive at Maidenpool, which we learn takes its name from the legend of Florian and Jonquil. The legend that Dantos uses to manipulate Sansa, by telling her, look, sweetie, our adventure will be kind of like in one of those tales you're so fond of. I hope it's not a spoiler to say that Dantos has been manipulating Sansa at this point, or been trying to manipulate her anyway. Be it as it may, this is the pond where legend has it Florian first spotted Jonquil bathing, and so began their great love story. And to add a bit of present-day charm to the legend, the pool is currently choked with rotting corpses. How delightful. So much so that Jaime bursts into song. Brienne going, will you please shut up? More teasing. Hey, Brienne, what say you? We jump in the pool? Huh? I could scrub your back. Which, of course, they don't do. But let's not rule out the possibility that these two characters might share a water pool of sorts in a future chapter. Anyway, so as per plan, the traveling companions are taking the road to Duskendale, while all Jaime can think about is Cersei. The whole scrubbing each other's, washing each other's back, brought back some memories, of them bathing together ever since they were children. So he just keeps thinking of Cersei, and that's his cross to bear, isn't it? And he recalls when their mother Joanna caught wind of the twins constantly playing doctor, so to speak, when they were still children, and she said, all right, look, kids, it'll be our secret, yeah? But from now on, the two of you will sleep in rooms as far away from each other as Casterly Rock's size allows, all right? Which is a veto that didn't last long, because a year later, Dame Joanna died in childbirth, when Tyrion was born. And now the twincest is hardly a secret, he's still thinking to himself, Jaime. Ever since Stanislav, yeah, that's what I'm going to call him today, all right? until Stanislav, that's as soon as Stanislav learned how to use Twitter and spread the gossip all over the 7 kingdoms, Isles included, which Jamie thinks, okay, well, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, you know? So now everybody knows it, and I don't care who knows it or suspects it. I should just go ahead and marry my sister. Yeah, why not? It's a simple wish. Why did only Targaryens get a free incest card? And so on and so forth. He keeps thinking all those things to himself. And meanwhile, he's still as casual, contemptuous thoughts for his fellow travelers. You know, the chinless cretin, Cleos, and the wench, as he calls them. The chinless cretin and the wench. Although in Brienne's case, some mixed up feelings are emerging, which he's constantly trying to suppress. That's very interesting. And he just barely has enough time to think back on his oath to Catelyn Stark, you know, the oath to have her daughters safely returned to her, and how he's determined to honor it. If for no better reason, just to see the shock on everyone's face, given that no one expects the Kingslayer to keep any oath. And he just barely has the time to think about that some unseen party starts firing arrows on them. From behind, from the bushes, as you do. Cleos loses balance on the saddle, falls off, but his foot is caught in the stirrup. And as the horse panics and, runs away, Cleos is dragged behind, and his head going bounce, bounce, bounce on the ground. Yeah, sounds funny, yeah, but that's what kills him, actually. So, yeah, that's the last we see of Cleos. Weirdly, this is shortly after Jaime had just said, look, Cleos, I'm bored with your company, yeah? So right now, Brienne must be thinking, oh, gee, I hope he ain't bored with my company, because this guy has got, like, the Jinx superpower. Okay, so I said earlier on, I said Cleos' horse runs off, but run, apparently, and any horse fans or owners out there will confirm, run is way too generic a verb for a horse step. So I actually looked it up, I know, and it's not trotting. It didn't trot away, because trotting is kind of slow, isn't it? But more likely galloping. But did you know there's also other, shall we call them steps? Okay, so there's canter, ambling gait, also known as simply amble, which is further divided into foxtrot, passo fino, rival, each of them being a different pace. Okay, I got myself into a rabbit hole here. Or should I say a warren? If one must be, I told you, nerdy sociolinguist. Yeah, what are you going to do? Anyway, so what about Brienne? Yeah, well, Brienne, is she hit by these arrows? Sure, of course. A couple of arrows. But she keeps circling her sword, looking for the bowman, like it's nothing. Nothing happened, you know. Jane spots the bowman and charges after him on his horse. You got to remember, he's still chained at the wrists right now. But he just hopes that the bowman won't notice. Which he doesn't, in fact, because he makes a runner and he's gone. So Brienne catches up with Jaime, and there they are. So, oh, by the way, do you know, Brienne, do you know you have a couple of arrows stuck in you? Yeah, never mind that. She goes, where's that cousin of yours, Cleos? Ah, well, Cleos. Yeah, let's go find him. I don't think he's doing too well right now. Turns out he's dead. Told you. Well, yeah. We should probably pause a moment here to remind ourselves that as slapstick a death as Cleos's was, there's an aspect that kind of makes it more tragic. This Cleos was still Jenna Lannister's and Aemon Frey's son, one of the eldest sons, I think. Which means that if you remember the previous chapter, Catelyn III, Aemon and Jenna are now, as of now, 2 sons short. You know, both lost within the space of like 2 chapters. Tyon, having been whacked by Rickard Karstark. So this is kind of like, Saving Private Ryan. where parents receiving news of different sons having been killed in action in different parts of the world. So yeah, tragic. Weirdly though, by the time we encounter this couple in A Feast for Crows towards the end, they seem all recovered from the loss. Him going on about his new possession, a certain that's all he talks about, a certain castle. I won't tell you which castle because no spoiler policy here. But yeah, he's all like, careful with my castle. Don't use heavy war machinery around my castle. No, that will stain the walls of my castle. Have I mentioned that this is my castle? And Jenna's all like, yeah, she said just about enough of that. Will you shut up about that bloody castle? She's, they are this comedic duo. At least that's the way they came across to me. First time I read that chapter. By the time we encounter them in book 4, they're this comedic duo. But we're not there yet. We'll meet them in due time. For now, Jaime is exclusively interested in Cleos's horse, because he got a better horse, and sword. And Brienne seems to be resolutely against the idea of looting. He was your cousin. Yeah, well, so what, man? I've got plenty of those. I've got plenty of cousins. But Brienne will have none of that. And swing! She unsheaths her sword. Did you know that that's the sound they make? Swing! She unsheaths the sword and it's duel. They go on for a bit. Swing, chung, chung, hacking, slashing. While Jaime finds himself forced to admit that Brienne is actually stronger than himself. Of course, he's got all sorts of excuses in his head, like his wrists are bound by a chain and he spent too long in a dungeon, etc., etc. So there. And just as the fight gets less and less dignified, kicks and spits and insults, like, what was it? Die Another Day. You ever watch that fencing duel in Die Another Day between Pierce Brosnan and Toby, what's his name? It gets less and less, elegant and more like, oh, you mother beep, kicks and spits and insults. And at that point, Brienne and Jaime suddenly hear someone laughing somewhere in the woods. So they turn around and two things are immediately clear to Jaime. These are not the same outlaws who fired those arrows at them. In fact, I don't know if it's ever explained who the archers were. Were they just a plot device? No, I genuinely don't remember. And so we don't know who they are. Another chapter, the Brotherhood Without Banners? No. I'm going to go with no, because those guys are on their way to High Heart. Anyway, I said two things. He realizes two things. A, that these are two different people. And B, these laughing guys are in fact none other than the Bloody Mummers, who prefer to be called the Brave Companions. These are a sum of the Brave Companions anyway, not the whole 100+ force. Just some elements of them, among whom we immediately learn is a certain Rorg. The first time I read that name, I was tempted to pronounce it Rorge, as in, Spanish Jorge. Yeah, I'm all about Spanish names today. Or maybe French, Rorge. After all, why not? Such a sophisticated young chap. Rorge. No, but then I heard some reviewers pronounce it Rorge, so I guess I'm going with that. And I suppose this is a good time to pause and recap about these jolly fellows, the Bloody Mummers, or the Brave Companions. Because back in a Clash of Kings, Area 7, they arrived in Harrenhal on Tywin Lannister's payroll. But as soon as Tywin left Harrenhal, they switched sides, aligned themselves with Roose Bolton, and overthrowing the garrison left by Tywin, commanded by Amory Lorch, and freeing those northern men, Robert Glover, Aerys Frey, etc. in what became known as the Weasel Soup plot, in which Arya took part. But Jaime doesn't know any of that. As far as he's concerned, these are his dad's dogs. That's the term employed by Tywin for these low-life mercenary type guys, Sell swords in Westeros parlance, and I guess PMSC in our own world, private military security contractors, whatever. But these are, these are not, particularly professional. They're just a bunch of glorified outlaws. And in fact, right now, since they serve Roose Bolton, and in terms of allegiance, and I use the term loosely, the Bloody Mummers are technically under the indirect command of King Robb via Bolton, even though Robb is probably even unaware of their existence. I don't know. Maybe you have better insights, dear listener. And therefore, given that Brienne is sort of loosely, well, she's on a mission from Robb's mother, which, technically is not really condoned by Robb. So complicated. But bottom line is, or should be, that we have nothing to fear for Brienne's safety, right? Well, no. Sadly, this isn't that kind of clear-cut universe. Well, kind of like real-life armed conflicts, isn't it? Yeah. And can I pull something off my chest right now, since we're talking about the Bloody Mummers? Something that has been in my chest since that chapter from A Clash of Kings. It pisses me off, yeah? Whoa, I come on a bit too strong. That it pisses me off that those three men in a cage, you know the ones? Sounds like Jerome Capella Jerome, 3 men in a cage. Those 3 men in a cage were not taken captive in Harrenhal like everybody else by that Amory Lorch party or Gregor Clegane's, but they were actually given jobs, those 3 men. Roger, Biter, let's not forget about him. Jack and Agar, he's a case apart. Jack and Agar, also known by his stage name Amanda, because he literally says it himself. A man doesn't get to choose his companions in a cage. Amanda. All right, now moving on. So, I get how Jaqen might have been able to sneak into the rank and file of the Bloody Mummers, because, it must have pulled one of his tricks. It's likely, don't you think? One of his face tricks. Because no matter how articulate and well-spoken Jaqen Agar or anyone might be, you don't simply sweet-talk your way out of trouble with people like Gregor Clegane and Amory Lorch and the Brave Companions, as indeed we shall soon find out with Jaime in this very chapter, dear listener, actually. So I'm thinking Jaqen Agar must have pulled one of his, face tricks to infiltrate the rank and file of the Bloody Mummers back then. But Roger and Biter, for God's sake, after they escaped from that cage on fire thanks to that axe that Arya threw at them, it's beyond me how not only were they not captured and mistreated by the Brave Companions and put with the others, the other harmless peasant farmers, widows and orphans who were routinely tortured for information that they didn't even have. No, which was a danger that Team Arya faced every day. Not only were they not imprisoned or mistreated, but they were given jobs. As in, welcome to the workforce, young man. We certainly need 2 strapping young lads such as yourselves among us. Well done. Now go to orientation and you'll be given your armor. It's just the worst scum that always somehow... I know what you're going to say. Roger and Biter were not scooped up by Amory Lorch's or Clegane's men. So their character trajectory was different. But still, it's just the fact that the worst elements, brutal, violent, psychopaths, with their IQs combined, still in the double digits. The fact that they had it so easy, no mistreatment, no nothing, that's what kind of didn't sit right with me. There, I said it, if you'll excuse me. So, we know that Roger and Biter are part of the Bloody Mummers, and Jamie couldn't have put it better. The scum of the earth surround us, he's thinking. Because regardless of nationality, these are the rejects of every city in both continents. There's a Dornish man, and it's kind of sad that that's the very first words uttered by a Dornish man in this book series are instructions on how to take Brienne and force her into consensual intercourse. Yeah, I'd rather not use the R word here. Anyway, I think it's the first character we encounter from Dorne who happens to have any lines. Am I right? Then there's Dothraki, but he's also the worst kind of his own people. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the Dothraki are Boy Scouts, but this one has let himself go. He's fat, corrupt. It's just... and he's become one of the Turncloaks. He's joined the Turncloaks. So, he doesn't have what back in Dothraki land would loosely pass for honor. He wouldn't be able to hack it in the real Dothraki world. Hack it. See what I did there? Because later on, he will hack. Never mind. I'll shut up. Moving on. So you have your usual picturesque and colorful types here within the Bloody Mummers, all scum, each and every one of them. Swordsmen with green beards, Dothraki. I think George R. R. Martin pronounces it Dothraki. I think I heard it in an interview. With bells in her braids. Hairy Ibnese, Summer Islanders in feathered cloaks, They're not called Bloody Mummers for nothing. They're entertaining to look at. And wait till you see their striped zorses. The zorses, their mounts, basically. So Jamie demands to know who's in charge, and also Brienne has something to say. She immediately goes, okay, what do you want? Money? I've got money. I've got 100 stags. 100 stags. You see, back at the Inn of the Kneeling Man, she bought those 3 horses with 3 golden dragons, but now she's got stags. And I told you back then that I was going to keep track of currency since that chapter to see exactly what buys what. So here we go. The entry, I looked it up, I wrote it down right here. The entry on a wiki of Ice and Fire informs us that a golden dragon is worth 210 silver stags. Sounds to me like we're talking about 2 completely different types of currency. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Dragons equals Targaryens and stags equals Baratheons. Yeah? Wild guess. So they don't exactly, map onto each other and as in 100 of this is worth 1 of this. They're not units and subunits. I don't know. Anyway, so the same person, they've actually both Brienne and Jamie have asked a question, and they are both answered by the same person. Some pale Lysini named Urswick the Faithful. Where do they get those names? Who looks more dead than alive. He's pale and you can see blue veins on his... And he goes, yeah, I'm the CEO around here, yeah? And yes, we'll take the money, thank you very much, for a start. Jamie, of course, is all smug because he thinks he's talking to his daddy's employees. So he pulls the usual card. Do you know who I am? And Urswick looks unimpressed because he's all like, yeah, Jamie boy. It takes more than a makeover. Don't forget, Jamie's shaved his head and he still has a long beard, big bushy beard. Yeah. You're not fooling us, Jamie boy. We're taking you to our leader, Vargo Hoat, who is currently sitting in Harrenhal as its legitimate lord. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Remember in the previous Tyrion chapter that Peter Baelish was complaining about goats squatting in his Harrenhal? Goats being a slur for Vargo Hoat and his men. And his men. And the goats, the goat being a god in Qohor. Anyway, so Jaime senses a wrong vibe right from the start, which will keep on, rising. These guys, because these guys are not intimidated by him, So what's going on? It's at this point that the Dornish guy explains they are now on Roose Bolton's payroll and indirectly serving the king in the north. So Tywin is now officially the enemy. The plot thickens. Now it's at this point that Jaime just makes an insulting comment about the Bloody Mummer's lack of honor. One of hundreds of Jaime-type comments that he would normally get away with. But this time, do you know what? These last pages here of this chapter, do you know what they make me think of? They kind of remind me of the final passages of the last Theon chapter back in A Clash of Kings. Think about it. In both cases, the POV character thinks that his luck is beginning to turn for the best, because now that he's encountered a bunch of dodgy individuals that he thinks might be on his side, and really he should know better. It was the Bolton army in Theon's case, with Reek revealing that really he was Ramsay Snow in disguise, and Theon all the time feeling some kind of a weird tension rising, until Ramsay knocked him unconscious with a gauntlet of his armor. Ouch! Thereby confirming that yes, something was indeed wrong. And well, in this chapter, it's sort of like the same thing here. Martin really enjoys, pulling this trick. I mean, in this chapter, the tension is slightly more, slow burning, but getting, faster and faster, by rising faster and faster. So Jaime's comment, as I said, this time doesn't go down well at all with Urswick, who immediately gives a signal, and two of the mummers grasp Jaime by the arms, and Roger drives a mailed fist into his stomach. Ouch! See the parallel? And the mummers also beat Brienne into submission as she tries to defend Jaime, because, she's supposed to deliver him to King's Landing unharmed. And then they from now on will have to bear in mind that Brienne is missing two front teeth, or two teeth. We don't know if it was the front, because they've been knocked out of her face by one of the mummers, which certainly isn't likely to improve the way people react to her unusual appearance. So both Jaime and Brienne are tied back to back, put on top of that plow horse, and as soon as Roger and company are done looting Cleos's dead body, it's off to see the goat. We're off to see the goat, la-di-da-di-da. So now, imagine this, if the journey wasn't exactly cheerful earlier on, right now it's downright miserable. Both characters in pain, Jaime going, "This is all your fault. You should have freed me. We could have fought these idiots. And by the way, you're probably going to lose your maidenhood to these animals. They're gonna have you. They're gonna have their wicked ways with you. And if I were you, I would just let them have it. At least you'll stay alive, and so on." And bam, bam. Do you know what though? I think he has a point when he says that if they both had a fighting chance, they would have made mincemeat out of like half a dozen bloody mummers. Yeah, I don't find it hard to believe. Two sword masters, the size and physical prowess of Jaime and Brienne, with their skills and training. Because let's face it, the brave companions are anything but brave. I get the impression that they only engage with an enemy party, whatever, as long as they know they outnumber them. I mean, let's not forget, just one paragraph earlier, I forgot to tell you, it took 4 of them to subdue Brienne. And not because she had a sword. They beat her into submission while she was trying to retrieve her sword. You know, Brienne is a bloody giant. But anyway, yeah, well, what are you going to do? What's done is done. Oh, and then Jaime also tries the all-too-common Lannister line with Urswick. You know, hey, do you like gold? Kind of like what Tyrion did back in the Eyrie, you know, with his jailer Mord back in Game of Thrones. So yeah, hey, you love gold. If you take us to King's Landing, you can cash my ransom. And did you tell you what? You can cash Brienne's ransom too, because did I mention she comes from the island of sapphires? Sapphires. Yeah. Do you like those? Do you know what they are, right? But Urswick isn't falling for it. Not even not even when Jaime keeps increasing the offer. Okay, you get a pardon for your crimes. You get a knighthood. Huh? How would you like that? And this is where the tension keeps rising. You know, this wrong vibe Jaime is perceiving, because Urswick even slaps him lazily on the face. So yeah, something is definitely wrong here. This guy is not even intimidated by me. He should be, but he's not. What's cooking? What's cooking, Cheech? Not only that, Jaime is also reminded for the 1,000th time that you know, being the Kingslayer, no one believes a word he says. Okay, all right. Everybody keeps going back to me killing Aerys. Will everybody shut up about that for 5 minutes? So anyway, so he just goes back to Brienne, who informs him that Tarth did not get its name from actual sapphires, but the color of the sea that surrounds the island, which Jaime already knew. But his plan is to get the Bloody Mummers to believe that Brienne is worth a ransom as long as she's alive. See, that's she doesn't want her to die, to be killed by these brave companions. So we finally get to see Vargo Hoat, also known as the Goat, but he doesn't like to be called that to his face. Now, this is another character culling that was done for the HBO series. So Vargo Hoat was cut out entirely, although a different character was written for TV, played by Noah Taylor. Don't ask me the character's name because I don't remember. I can look it up if you want later on, maybe. But so they made this Noah Taylor character, they made him more straightforwardly a commander in a division. It looks more like a company on TV. In the Bolton army, because there are no Bloody Mummers in the TV series. And this Noah Taylor character does some of the things Vargo Hoat does here in this book, but it's definitely not Vargo Hoat from Qohor, whom we encounter here. And he speaks for the first time. Barely intelligible, because A, he's got a lisp, and B, he's chewing some roast chicken, so there. And he's, of course, described as picturesquely as every other Bloody Mummer, wearing around his neck a chain with coins of all cities around the continent, one for every place where he's killed people. Meanwhile, Brienne is carried away. I told you that the fact that all these people are sworn to King Rob, on paper anyway, means nothing vis-a-vis Brienne's safety. Okay, look, it's going to take me like a second. Noah Taylor, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, thank you very much. And he plays whom? He plays Locke. I remember now. The name is Locke. Locke. Who's another nasty piece of work, I seem to recall. So yeah, nothing to do with where do they find these names for the HBO series? You know, Asha becomes Yara, all those things. So anyway, Jamie thinks he can play the usual card now that he's face to face with Vargo Hout. He says, I'll tell you what, mate. You deliver me to my father, and you'll get an enormous amount of gold from Tywin Lannister. Huh? Would you like that? Which sounds all very well and good to Vargo, except that he goes, yeah, sure, love gold. But first, let me send Tywin a message. Dun, dun, dun. Ominous music. At which point, he gives an order in a language Jamie doesn't understand. He just goes, uh-huh, uh-huh. And all of this is key. Right now, no more slow burning tension. Everything happens in an instant. Urswick shoves him in the back, and a jester in green and pink motley. Yeah, that's right. There's a jester among the bloody mummers in green and pink motley. It's a psychotic. We'll encounter him again. His name is Shagwell. He keeps laughing maniacally. Anyway, so the fool in motley trips Jamie. Some other dude grabs the chains binding Jamie's wrists just to, pull his arms forward. And the fat Dothraki, or Dothraki if you prefer, whose name is Zollo, if anyone is interested, pulls out his arach. The curved scimitar, the curved sword. And he just lifts it up. So Jamie's all like, yeah, whatever. They think they can scare me. There's some message that is pretending they want to hack some of my limbs off. But if they expect me to scream, wow, that arach is getting really close. If they expect me to scream, they're in for a bit. Is what Jamie actually does. Those screams that go on, horror screams that go on a bit too long, longer than they should in those bad movies. Like, I don't know if you've seen the British TV series, Gareth Marenghi's Dark Place from way back. Yeah, this is really funny, where they pick on those mistakes made by poor quality TV series and movies, bad editing, and there is the scream. Like every time someone screams, it just goes on for a little bit more than it would in quality media. I highly recommend that. Gareth Marenghi's Dark Place. If you haven't watched it yet, do watch it. You'll thank me. So Jamie does scream. I hope I managed to, in my description earlier on, I hope I managed to convey the slow motion, vibe of these final lines, because, as I said, everything happens real fast at this point. And Jamie does scream in the end. It's actually the last line in this chapter. So, it's a bit of a cliffhanger because, okay, so did he scream because in the end he gave in? He did feel really horrified. So the bloody mummers can go, ha, got you. I made you. I startled you, didn't I? Yeah, I made you scream. Or did they actually hack one of his limbs off? I'm not going to tell you this because did I forget to mention there's a no spoiler policy here. I'm trying to be as committed to it as I can. And in this book series, I'll be looking back and not forward. So I guess in case you're a first-time reader, you know what I'm saying? So I guess that you and I, if we want to acquaint ourselves or reacquaint ourselves with Jamie's fate, well, you and I will just have to keep on reading until we reach the next Jamie chapter. But first we have a whole bunch of other chapters to go through. Let me just quickly, can I quickly ask you to stay with me for one more minute? Here we go. Chapters, I go to my trusty awoiaf.westeros.org. It's the wiki of Ice and Fire. Okay, just to cut a long story short. And here we are with this Jaime III. Indeed, we have, I have quite a few. Arya 4, Daenerys 2, Bran 2, Davos 2, Jon 3, Daenerys 3, Sansa 3, Arya 5, Jon 4, Jaime 4. Okay, right, it's feel free to skip to that one or to the next one or not, or to the previous one or to the previous Jaime, or in fact do whatever you like, including, up to and including, if you enjoy this kind of content, do the things that people ordinarily do, customarily do under these circumstances, or not, dear listener. So, and with that on mind, I'll tell you what, I look forward to talking to you again in Area 4. Oh, yes, I can hardly wait. All right, mate, wherever you might be, dear listener, speak to you soon. Bye.